What are you still salty about? In a 5th grade science test the question was, are there any stars in the solar system? I answered, yes. Teacher marked it wrong. I went up afterwards and said, what about the sun? He said. He meant that all the other stars are not in our solar system and kept it marked wrong. Although I'm harboring this for 50 years now. He was all around one of the best teachers I ever had and just passed away a week or so ago. But damn. That should have been marked right. Are there any beans in this jar? Yes. There appear to be 3. Wrong. I meant all the beans that are outside of the jar. You see, if you exclude all the beans inside the jar, there are no beans in the jar. You sure are stupid. Apostrophe. When I was in high school someone tagged up the school. They announced there would be a reward for anyone who rats anyone out. I get called in the office and find out I'm suspended for vandalization. I didn't do it and had no idea who. 4 days later I'm allowed to come back to school because they found who actually did it. I just got an apology. Public humiliation. Private apology. Well in front of my parents. We tried to see what we could do against the school. All legal advice was no to do anything. When I was in high school, I was occasionally allowed to drive my family's 3rd car. It had a slow leak in one of the tires. So we were all supposed to check the pressure and put air in it if we needed to. I picked up a friend to go to a movie. And when we came out one tire was completely flat. It wasn't the one with the leak. So I put the spare on and drove home. I got absolute hell from my parents about it. How irresponsible I was to not check it. I'd have to pay for the repair. Why didn't I call roadside assistance? Etc. Took it to get fixed. Repeat the whole lecture as we're dropping it off. And the tech who did it called my mom and told her he'd found a nail in the tire and there was no way I could have seen it coming. She refused to apologize and I still had to pay for it. That's not even bad parenting. That's just bad personing. In 4th grade English class, EU, I'd use the word gross in a random sentence we had to write. The teacher argued that it isn't a real word. I said that it is. That I saw it a few times in video games and movies, and she said that they aren't a reliable source. I said to her that I'm gonna show it in the dictionary, but she instead grabbed me by the arm and took me out of the classroom and locked the door. To this day I'm still fuming about this. And then she had the nerve to be all chummy when I met her once in a supermarket. Gross. Edit. In both cases it was meant like disgusting, and I know there are even more meanings behind the word. I wonder if she knows by now. You could have also said you met the grossly overweight teacher in the grocers buying a gross of eggs. On a 4th grade math test we had to make a shape that had only 4 sides, 1 set of parallel lines, and only 1 right angle. There were probably more requirements, but I can't remember. I remember almost crying at my desk and spending 20 minutes on that one question, while constantly telling my teacher that it wasn't possible, but according to her it was. And the next day we went over the answer key, and the answer had 2 right angles. Yo, I had something like this happen to me. We had a paper sheet with tons of math questions. One of them was impossible and the whole class knew it. We went up to our teacher and she said no questions. Next day we were reviewing it and she said it was impossible, but still marked us all wrong. Edit. A lot of people were bugging me about punctuations, so I fixed it. That is infuriating. 3 months ago I went on maternity leave. The woman hired to cover for me was being paid $3 more than I'm currently paid. She was going to be kept on as a full-time accounting assistant after I returned. But she couldn't keep up with my daily tasks and completely ducked up several databases that I had to correct when I returned to work the following month. When I asked for a raise, they offered me $50 after telling me how crucial I'm to the structure of the company. Needless to say, I'm looking for a new job. Let that be a lesson. Never expect a respectable raise from the company you are currently in. If you want more money, think you deserve more money, etc., go somewhere else. 100% true. Also, be careful about trying to secure a different position at the same company if it's similar to your current one, or it's a company that doesn't clearly separate job duties. That's a good way to have new duties on top of your old duties while they look for a replacement. And you probably won't get paid as much as a new hire for that other position either. Not saying don't do it, but be diligent and prepared to look for alternatives. If they try to screw you, you're selling them your labor, nothing else. You owe them nothing that isn't specifically laid out in writing. And they owe you nothing that isn't also in writing. 20 years ago I had 3 friends show up at my house, and when they left my wallet with $80 in it was missing. One of the guys felt bad and gave me $20 back. 3 years after that we are in the back drive-thru and he whipped out my wallet. Still salty. His FB friend request has just been sitting there for like 2 years. Like 12 years ago, a friend of mine brought his friend to my house. My phone went missing at some point. He was the only person there that I had not known for half my life. He tried to blame it on my siblings' friends, but didn't realize that he was the only one there who didn't consider our house a second home. I ended up getting someone I knew to tell him she lost her phone, and she got him to offer her my exact phone, but at some point he must have realized what was going on, and he ghosted her before she could buy it back for me. Like 6 years later he tried to come back for a party, and I told him to get lost. Still mad. When I was a freshman in college my mom gave my car to my jailbird brother. Every time he got out she'd scrape a bunch of stuff together for his fresh start without ever running it by me. He showed up to my school, changed the battery for me, and then drove away in it. He didn't tell me his intentions beforehand, so it wasn't until then that I caught on. As he drove off I called my mom and she just said I'll help you with a new one. He moved out of state with that car, wrecked it within weeks, and has since gone back to jail multiple times. Neither of them have given me a sincere apology to this day. That's why I tell young people, if the title to their car isn't in their name then it isn't their car. Your parent can't give away your car. I was probably 5 years old visiting my mom at the hospital after she gave birth to my brother, and she was given food on a tray which she didn't want, so she gave it to me. I put the tray on the table, and as I was eating, the nurse takes the tray away from me and throws away the food. That may have my first true instance of anger in my life. I'm 27 now, and imposters am writing this, haha. What a waste of food. If it's any consolation, where I work, we just talk family to go ahead and eat if the patient doesn't want it. Infectious diseases aside, of course. Yeah, that's how it should be, of course. The fact a nurse took food away from a child bothered me. It was a delicious piece of fried chicken too. Came second in food tech competition. Made a lovely main course, then lames do chat biscuits with lemon posset for dessert. I made this dessert because the judges prior to this day told us don't make a cake for dessert. Guess what won first place? A ducking cake. When my mom put my sister's name on my birthday cake. Later that night I also walked in on my parents getting their freak on. Pretty horrible way to turn 13. Still angry that my 6th grade teacher refused to believe I had no idea the dude sitting behind me was copying my answers on the test. The first day of 8th grade my best friend and friend group informed me that they would no longer be my friend. To this day, 20 years later, I still don't understand how or why things ended up that way. I can only guess because I was the shy nerd of the group and they were trying to fit in with the cool crowd. Regardless, it was a miserable experience that left me with quite a few trust issues. OMG, I had almost the exact same thing happen to me. Only it was a few months into 8th grade, not the first day. I totally understand your struggle. That shit ducking hurt. It's been close to 20 years for me too, but I'll never forget the anxiety I felt at school every single day trying to have a social life. Nor will I forget the pain of being an awkward 13-year-old girl and losing my BFF since 3rd grade. All because she decided to listen to the pretty girls who told her she'd be more popular if she didn't hang out with me. We remained in the same friend circle to some extent throughout high school, though she and I were never quite as close as before. Icing on the cake, a couple years ago I found out that during our senior year, while she had a long-term BF, she cheated on him and ducked his best friend, the guy I was madly in love with at the time. Duck you, Jen. Kindergarten. Playing with a kid in the sandbox. Was a fairly drizzly day. We are making a castle, and there's a puddle a few feet from us. He wants to dig a moat around the castle. And I say sure. So he just kinda jams his hand in the dirt and starts pulling. Making way too huge of a channel. Which he immediately realizes is going to just destroy our castle. So I say quick, build a dam to stop the water. He freezes. Stares at me with wide eyes and mouth agape before running off. I think this is strange, but okay, whatever. I saved the castle, so I go back to digging when the teacher runs up and grabs me and says to go to timeout. To which I obviously protest and say no, WTF, I didn't do anything. She then immediately says she knows I said a bad word and to not try and lie. To which I'm again confused and say I did not. After a few back and forths of her trying to pull me away by the arm and me rather violently resisting, it occurs to her to actually ask what happened. I explain the story. I still remember her face kinda dropping, realizing the other little shit thought I said damn instead of damn, and then immediately ratting on me. Tries to say well maybe use a different word, to which I again vehemently protest against, because no, that is the correct word for such a situation and that's just how it works, and it's his fault for not knowing the word. etc. etc. Until she finally gives in and explains to the kid that I did not swear and that no one likes tattletales. I'm in my 30s and on the other side of the country, and I still remember this as a very instance in which I gazed upon my fellow man and wept. For he is stupid. This story is like an allegory for all of humanity. I love it. Coming second in a school trivia competition 21 years ago, I had the correct answers onto questions that would have sent us to the national champs and was vetoed by the other 3 shitheads on my team. That's a life lesson right there. Being right is almost never enough. You also have to be able to convince others that you're right. That hits hard. I was a co-founder of a startup, and during an early strategy meeting, I made a bunch of suggestions that the other founders aggressively dismissed. A year later, we got some funding and hired a CEO who was an expert in the field, and he suggested the exact same things, which they praised as brilliant. They later sheepishly remembered that I'd suggested the same ideas and apologized. That really taught me a lot. Being right is rarely enough. You need to understand why you're right, and you have to be able to sell your ideas. I missed out on recognition at my school's big academic assembly for arguably the most important academic results one gets in their schooling career in my state in Australia, because the teacher I had sent my results to didn't pass on the news. It's been years and it still fills me with such exasperation. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.